watched Kevin MacLeod endlessly looking wryly to camera when yet another dumb cop hadn't got a budget, far less stuck to it. And yet we started this project without a budget, architect, or even a main contractor, just one slightly dodgy builder who'd converted lots of lofts in Brighton. Our house didn't have hot water, so obviously the first purchase was to buy a roll-top bath from the reclamation yard in Conflans. 3 years on and I still haven't sat in it, let alone filled it with bubbles and lain there sipping champagne. But that's what building does to you. But let me take you back. So, a maison de maître, uninhabited since the 1970s, and prior to that owned by just one family who'd made cognac. There were outbuildings and a huge barn for us to convert, to develop a centre for us to run courses, self-esteem enhancement, relationship workshops. The size of the barn required planning permission, and the submission had to be made by an architect, which didn't come cheap. Against the advice of the pool installers who'd quoted, we applied for permission to install 6 bedrooms and bathrooms, 6 windows and a huge door in the west side, as well as a swimming pool, all at the same time. We got the permis de construire, and it soon became apparent that our builder was out of his depth, as were we. So we found a local project manager, John Mathers, who immediately got to work.
Here we had the main structural beams supporting the floor above, resting on old oak beams that were running across that were purely cosmetic rather than structural in strength. Resting on an old beam here that's been notched and not actually on the wall. So all the weight of the floor above is resting on that, which I have to now cut out, support underneath, and these beams will have to be replaced and put on top of this beam here, which is where they should have been put in the first place, so that the span from this beam to a wall plate that doesn't exist over here is done with one piece of timber and not 2 that have been nailed together with 3 nails. This can then be removed, as this was also it's supposed to be a structural beam resting on ceiling joists, which means the entire of the upstairs is resting on 3 or 4 rather old beams.
Quarryfuls of local stone was delivered to create standard-sized apertures for off-the-shelf windows, while bedroom floors went from rubble to earth to concrete to chestnut. Decisions were made about pierre apparent versus skimmed plasterboard. It was a long, hard winter. That mental budget spiralled out of control and we had to hunt around for a bank willing to lend us money we'd never planned to borrow. We frequently woke in the middle of the night wondering what on earth we'd done. But as the 1st of July and our first workshop booking approached, it all started to come together. Chris Goff, who did both the stonework and the plumbing, fitted 6 ensuite shower rooms, but the tiles were cheaper at Homebase, and all the furniture, much of it French, came from Sussex auctions at a fraction of the price of IKEA. It only took 2 years from start to finish, although it felt like an eternity. We still haven't quite come to terms with the fact we don't have a house and a barn, but 2 rather large houses. Had I known what I know now, I would never have started. So thank goodness we hadn't done a proper budget or talked to anyone in the know at the outset, or we wouldn't have this beautiful space to live and work in.